Teachers Hussein, welcome to you all. My name is Janet MacDonald, and I have written a children's book called Rat Island. Rat Island is a story about some imaginary rats that speak the Sanchotan language, which is the language of the Wisanich people. I'm going to read to you a few chapters from Rat Island, my first book. This one was written back in 2008, which coincidentally was the year of the rat, going by the Chinese calendar. So, let's start. It happened one shivery evening in January that I met, or should I say surprised, one of the scouts from a place I never knew existed until now. I had lived in the avenue just 2 blocks down from the secret place for over 26 years. I had passed the place every day while out walking, and never ever had I seen or heard any of its denizens in the now wild land next to the bus stop. They were wild themselves, and kept themselves hidden from men, cats, and ravens. They were small and secretive, only going out at night when men and ravens were sleeping to forage for food to feed their tribe. They were the smaller of their species, gray in color on their fur, with tiny white and pink paws and long, threadbare tails. They were native rats. They called their homeland by the bus stop Rat Island. Okay, Chapter 1, A Sighting. I had been working hard that day, and the tantalizing smell of fast food still clung to me as I walked home in the darkness that evening. I carried a small flashlight in one hand, because the street lamps along the road did not cast a very bright light. It was when I'd gotten near the Shades of White wedding gown shop that I surprised the scout rat. He had been searching the garbage-strewn grass next to the shop for food. Upon seeing me, he scampered pell-mell for the cover of a large old oak tree near the corner of the road and the highway. However, I'd seen him and had followed his escape path to the tree. Creeping as quietly as I could, I went around the oak tree to see where the poor little rat had gone. He was pressed against the trunk of the old oak, trembling. "Poor little rat," I said kindly. "I won't hurt you." Upon seeing me so close to him, the scout rat gave a shrill squeak and made a mad dash across the wide expanse of lawn which bordered the highway. Sighing, I went back to the sidewalk and on up to the crosswalk. When I got near the bus stop with the wild, rocky oak tree-covered hill just behind it, I heard a tiny rustling sound. There was a low rock wall holding back the hillside from spilling onto the sidewalk. Level with the top of the rock wall was a jumble of rocky outcrops, wild grasses, broom, and ancient evergreen shrubs, strewn with paper cups, hamburger wrappers, and broken Bic lighters. You see, our people aren't always clean. The rustling sound stopped, and so did I. I glanced to my right, and there, sitting on his haunches, was another small gray rat. "Hello, rat," I said politely as I stood still. The little gray rat gasped and turned tail and shot up the hillside. I was sorry that they were so timid. I would have liked to have petted the little fellow. I walked the rest of the way home, still thinking how cute the little gray rats had looked. Over the next few days, I thought about the rats I'd seen. One day, as I walked down the street, which was a block south of the wild hill, I saw bits of fruit lying in the gutter next to the sidewalk. At once I thought about the little gray rats. The rats might like to have these bits of fruit if they knew about it, I thought to myself. Should I pick up the fruit? Should I carry it to the wild hill and leave it for the rats? Looking around to make certain that no one was watching, I quickly took out a handkerchief and picked up the bits of fruit. I stuffed the bits of fruit into my coat pocket. Changing the direction of my walk, I headed for the wild hill. Upon reaching the bus stop, I saw a few young people lounging around, waiting for the bus. I casually walked behind the bus shelter and across the grass to the rocky foot of the wild hill. It was like an island. It had bushes, grasses, and oak trees covering it. As I looked at the rocky foot of the hill, I could see a well-worn path in the dirt and rocks. The path was wide, indicating that people may have used it to climb up to the top of the wild hill. Unsure of what to do with the bits of fruit, I climbed the path a little way up the hill and looked around for a suitable place to leave my little gift. There was an old oak log just to my left, so I took the handkerchief out of my coat pocket and unwrapped the fruit. There was a hollow in one end of the log, so I put the fruit into it. Not too far in, though, because I wanted the little rats to find it. I quietly walked back down the steep path. As I reached the foot of the hill again, a large black crow, sitting on the branch of the tree on my right, looked at me and made a clicking noise in its throat. I smiled at the crow and left the bus stop. Somehow I knew that the crow approved. I knew that it would tell the rats about the gift of fruit. I walked home. I wasn't able to go back to the wild hill for a week, but I was determined to bring another gift of food for the rats. It was Saturday again, and I had the whole weekend off. I had saved some scraps of food and kept it in the refrigerator for freshness. It wasn't much, some bread crust, apple slices, and bits of an oatmeal chewy bar. Pardon. I hoped my little gifts were appreciated. I had also remembered the crow and brought a piece of fish cake. It was raining, so I put a rain hat on, along with my winter coat and black fleece gloves. I took a small purple umbrella with me as extra protection. Here on Vancouver Island, our winters are cold, gray, and wet. Everyone wears rain gear or carries an umbrella. I wondered how the rats fared in such rainy weather. I walked down to the bus stop, then across the wet, muddy grass to the path that went up the wild hill. I stopped next to the fallen log and peeked into the hollow end. The fruit that I'd left there a week ago was gone. I brought out the little Ziploc bag of food scraps and opened it. As I did so, the big black crow landed on an oak branch above me. "Caw! Caw!" he said, as I quickly placed the crusts of bread, apple slices, and oatmeal chewy bar into the log. I took out the bit of fish cake and showed it to the crow. He made a clicking noise in his throat and looked at the food in my hand. "Here, I brought you the gift as well," I said quietly as I put the fish cake down on an outcropping of rock near the oak tree that he sat in. I smiled and went back down the muddy path to the muddy grass below. The crow dropped silently down from the tree and hopped over to the fish cake. In 2 gulps, the fish cake was gone. Another week went by before I could visit the wild hill again. I had noticed that the crew of men and a backhoe were digging up the old empty lot that was situated between Bethune Avenue and Vernon Street. I wondered what the rats thought of this event. Perhaps they were frightened by all the activity going on so close to their wild home. I hoped the construction noises wouldn't be too deafening for them. Hello again. I'm going to read chapter 2. It is called Strangers, and tells about the second tribe of rats to come to visit Rat Island. Meanwhile, on the wild hill, known to the rats as Rat Island, there was trouble brewing. other rats from the vacant lot, which was under attack from the backhoe, had hastily gathered their families and escaped the vacant lot. They braved the dangers of cars and trucks on Vernon Street and crossed over to Rat Island. Crow had heard the outsiders coming and quickly left his perch to warn the tribe of grey rats. "Caw! Intruders! Wake up!" he yelled excitedly. The dozing scout rats awoke in a panic and ran into their village to the chief rat's burrow in the grassy bank. The chief rat, whose name was Tanish, dragged himself off of his grass sleeping nest and listened to the scout rats and to the crow. Crow was hopping around in excitement and squawking, "Intruders! Outsiders! Enemies!" Tanish waited for Crow to calm down. "Skukwata! Crow!" he squeaked commandingly. Crow stopped cawing and settled down. Tanish calmly asked what Crow meant. "Rats from the next island, Chief Tanish. They have crossed the great black path to our island," croaked the crow. "We will meet them and ask why they have come to our island," announced Chief Tanish. He went back into his burrow and took his talking stick from its place. As he did so, his wife rose from where she was plaiting a grass into a rain cape, and she wore a skirt made of woven grass and a sparrow claw necklace. She was a gentle and wise female rat known by the name of Tinka. "Will you be gone long, husband?" she asked, softly. Tanish smiled at his wife. "I could be away for a while. The crow has told us of other rats who have come to our island. I will hold a talking circle to see why they have come. If they are peaceful, we may let them stay on the island for a while. If they are not, then my warriors will make the strangers leave." Tinka reached out a pink and white paw to touch her husband's shoulder tenderly. "Go safely, my husband," she said. The outsiders were hiding in the snowberry bushes at the edge of Rat Island. Tanish and his rats could smell their wet fur as they drew nearer to the bushes. They stopped a little way away from the outsiders' makeshift camp. A scout rat named Sunash was chosen to go a little closer and call to the strangers. "I am Sunash of Rat Island. Send one of your scouts so we may talk," called Sunash to the strangers. A large brown and grey rat stepped away from the strangers and crept uphill to meet Sunash. "I am Kunat. We have been forced out of our homes by a giant metal digger and by men. Our chief and his family were killed, so now I represent my tribe," said the larger rat solemnly. The two rats went back to the group of scouts led by Tanish. Tanish, Sunash, and Kunat sat on the mossy ground and began their talk. Tanish held the talking stick in his left paw and began the talking circle. "I am Tanish, chief of the rats who live on Rat Island. Why have you and your tribe come here?" After speaking, Chief Tanish passed the talking stick to the large brown rat. Kunat solemnly took the talking stick from the chief of Rat Island and began telling the tale of how men and a huge digger came to his tribe's island and dug away their burrows, killing his chief and the chief's whole family in the process. "We grabbed our children and fled the place. Many of our elder rats died as we crossed the great black path. We have no homes and no chief. I have been chosen by our warriors to lead our tribe. We came to this place because it was close and offered a sanctuary of many bushes to hide under." When Kunat finished talking, he looked questioningly at the scout rat, Sunash. Sunash reached for the talking stick and it was given to him. He looked at its carved top, which showed a crow at the top, an image of Tannish in his ceremonial garb in the middle, and a cricket at the bottom. Its handle was smooth, and the natural color of the fir wood it was carved from. The eyes of the carved figures were inset with bits of shiny copper, and the figures themselves were painted in red and black. Sunash had many things he wanted to say. Some of them were harsh, so he bit his tongue and did not say them. Instead, he passed the talking stick back to Chief Tannish, whom he believed to be a wiser and more fair rat than any on the island. Tannish spoke kindly to the outsider, but he was firm. You and your tribe may stay here for 2 moons. However, you must keep to the far side of our island and fend for yourselves. We have only enough food stored for our tribe, and even now we need to scavenge for fresher food to feed our young children. There is plenty of grass and water for all, and the crows who rest here are our protectors. I will speak to them and ask them to protect you as well, stated Tannish, then reiterated, Remember, you must leave at the end of 2 moons. That is all. The 3 rats stood, and Quinaut thanked Chief Tannish before returning to his tribe, who were gathered under the snowberry bushes near the bottom of Rat Island. Quinaut told his tribe what was said and ordered his rats into their clans so he could keep track of everyone. They left, clan by clan, to travel to the far side of Rat Island. Quinaut stayed behind to make certain that every rat had gone. Then he followed their trail. The far side of Rat Island was green with grass and large pine trees. A few broadleaf trees grew on the narrower part of the island, which was flanked by Vernon and Blanchard streets. Quinaut counted each and every rat to make certain that no one had gotten lost. Then he instructed the male rats to dig burrows for their clans to shelter in. The females, children and elders, gathered blades of dead grass to make sleeping nests for their new burrows. Some of the grandmothers huddled under the bushes to look after the baby rats, who were wrapped in bits of cloth lined with their mother's fur. It took half of the day for Quinaut's tribe to get settled. There were a few baskets of seeds that some of the rats had managed to take with them in their flight, but it was far from enough food for the tribe. Quinaut designated some of the fastest and most cunning scout rats as scavengers. It was their job to go out at night and gather any food they could find. However, no one is to take food from the tribe of Tannish. If this happens, I will not protect the ones who steal, he warned. There was a murmuring in the crowd, but all of the chosen scouts agreed to obey Quinaut's orders. So we come to the end of chapter 2, and if anyone is interested in the rest of the story, you can order this book from me. It costs $14.95 Canadian. So if anyone is interested in a copy to hear the rest of the story or read it for themselves, please contact me. I will put my email on this tape so that you can see it. Thank you very much for listening. Hi Equisiem. Goodbye, respected ones.